Namaste and happy Sunday to everybody. Open heart, open mind. Welcome to the Sattva channel, the official platform of the Sattva project. I'm Sharabong, the co-founder of the Sattva project.
And I'm Samiksha Kamble. I'm from Sattva Youth, bringing Dharma to you, bridging Dharma with youth. Sattva Youth is also a program initiated by the Sattva project.
So before we begin our program today, on behalf of the Sattva team, I would like to express our thankfulness and gratitude to our media partner and StreamYard sponsor, Duran ASEAN and Duran FM, and not to forget a very important person behind the scene, who is our broadcast director for today, Brother Ray. Ray, would you like to say hi to everybody?
Oh,
Ray,
you're
you are
muted,
muted.
Brother Ray.
You are muted.
Welcome everyone and thanks for joining us today. Please like and share this video with more people if you're watching this later on YouTube. Do subscribe to our channel, like and share the video. Now back to you.
Thanks, Ray, for all the hard work. Okay, now let's begin our program today. Today we're going to have a Nobatara series by the title of Sisters of Dharma, part 2. So let us introduce to you who is our moderator and speaker for today.
Yeah. So today's program will be moderated by Sister Smitha Lahiri. Having spent over 20 years in the technology industry, Smitha decided to give it up and dedicate more time to her Dharma journey. After finding some precious Dharma and attending several retreats, she decided to undertake structured study of Dharma. She recently graduated with a diploma in Buddhist philosophy, Nalanda tradition from Tibet House, Delhi. She is currently on the board of Tashigatse Link Buddhist Center in Maine and works closely with Venerable Dasel. During her corporate tenure, she was on the advisory board for the Grace Hopper Conference for Women in Technology and worked passionately for the cause. She was a counselor for cancer patients and their caregivers, something that helped her immensely in her Dharma practice. Smitha is based in Bangalore, India. We welcome you
Good
to this
evening,
program, Sister
everybody.
Smitha.
Yeah, thank you
Welcome,
so much,
speaker.
Samiksha, for that introduction. Thank you, Sharabla, for the invite, and thanks for the opportunity to moderate this conversation again. And I would request our audience here today to let us know how they like this conversation and any future topics they may have that they would like to see featured here.
Thank
So,
you, Smita. And our first contributor tonight will be Venerable Tenzin Dasel. Venerable Tenzin Dasel is a teacher and leader who has been practicing Buddhism and meditation for over 2 decades. She is the founder of Main Mindfulness Project and served as a Buddhist spiritual advisor at BITS College and the spiritual program coordinator at Ashika Serling Buddhist Center. She holds many honors and distinctions for her work with women, as well as with men, also children and youth throughout the US, India, and the world. Welcome, Venerable Tenzin Dasel.
Thank you. Thank you very much to the Sattva team and to Ray behind the scenes tonight. Thank you to everybody who's making this possible and to everyone who's tuning in to listen and participate. We look forward to a great conversation.
So our next contributor is Bhikkuni Vandana. She is from Gujarat and now studying in Nagpur, Maharashtra. She is doing BA second year in Pali. She was ordained as Bhikkuni in 2019. She now lives in Nagpur, Maharashtra to pursue her higher studies and Dharma practices. She vows to work for the welfare for Buddhist women and is fully committed in striving for a better and brighter future for Bhikkhuni Sangha and female empowerment. We welcome you to this program, Bhikkhuni. Thank you for joining us. Oh, I think
You're
you're
muted,
muted.
Bhikkuni. You're muted, Bhikkuni. You're muted, Bhikkuni. I think let's move off to the next one. Yeah. Okay, the next contributor will be Sister Tripti Lochan. Tripti Lochan is a Global Capability Development Officer of the VMLRYNR, a global brand and customer experience agency with over 12,800 employees and more than 2 billion in annual revenue. Tripti has been a part of VMLYNR's global leadership team for over a decade and partners with teams across all regions and sub-brands worldwide. Previous to this role, Tripti was the co-CEO Asia and managed diverse markets across Asia. Tripti is a Buddhist, and her Dharma journey started with a Vipassana retreat that sparked her thirst to learn more about Buddhism in 2009. She has been she has completed the Nalanda Diploma in Buddhist Psychology from Tibet House, taught by Geshe Dorje Damdrula, and is in the second year of studying Logic for a 3-year logic and debate course taught by Atisha Mathur at ILTK Italy. She knows that these are the very first steps of her journey. Welcome, Sister Tripti.
Thank you so much for having me here. Every time that I have been one of these panels, I have learned something. So looking forward to today's learning.
So thank you, Sharabla and Samiksha, for the introductions. Um, I'll start with Bhikkuni. Is your audio working fine now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So this is the second session in the series Sisters of Dharma, where we have been trying to explore the various facets of a sangha and a female sangha, the differences in the sangha in the various traditions. We got some personal experience sharing from all of you last time. And I'd like to point out that Tripti ji is joining us this time in place of Nivedita ji. Nivedita ji will be joining us for another session later. So, welcome, Tripti ji. And I think we'll get started with Tripti ji since she's joining this conversation for the first time. We'll get started with Tripti ji's personal experience. So, would you be able to tell us um, what role the Sangha really played in your journey so far? Was it easy to find a Sangha, or did you have any challenges? And if you have any stories to share with our audience today.
Thank you, Smitha, for this opportunity. Um, of course, we all know that the word Sangha actually means association, assembly, company, or community. When we are specifically talking about it with respect to a religious connotation, it can be described very, very specifically. And there's an ordained sangha and unordained sangha. There is various levels, and I'm sure we will hear more about that later on in today's panel. But the more I have thought about it for myself from a laywoman's perspective, I have become more and more clear about who the Sangha is for me personally. And I believe that the Sangha is everyone who implicitly or explicitly helps me along in my dharma journey. They are Buddhists and they are non-Buddhists. The conventional version of a Sangha and the non-conventional version of a Sangha both have place in my definition. To me, they represent people who are joyful and with compassion help me along my journey and who I help back in their journey. But then when I thought about it that way, I also felt that I could not leave out people who are the challenges who also help me in my journey, because without them, my journey would not be meaningful. My husband is a non-Buddhist, but he is a very strong part of my Sangha because he's there to support me and hold me up along my journey. My children, they make space in my time so that I can concentrate on what I need to do. My friends who are not Buddhists, who unquestioningly support my decisions and my path, where I drop out of very important social gatherings, which may be something that is dear to them. They are all part of my Sangha as well. But of course, I have the conventional Sangha, who over the last so many years has held me up when I needed it and when I didn't even know I needed it as much as they knew I needed. And they knew what I needed. The fun fact, which may be true for a lot of us, is that I haven't met a majority of them physically in person, but they have been there through the challenges that I've had in the last, especially in the last few years, constantly encouraging me, constantly telling me not to lose heart. They have offered prayers for me without being even asked to. They have told me, advised me how to be kind to myself. They have done very, very tangible things like getting me access to the wisdom of teachers when they felt they couldn't help in some way. They've been there with prayers and love. So I am surrounded with a community that is aiding my journey. And Smita, I think that's who I think of as my Sangha.
That was very nicely, very touching and very nicely put, Tripti ji, and a lot that I can relate to as well. And I know this question came up last time from the audience. What about a sangha that includes people who are from different belief systems or faiths, and this version of a sangha that actually Tripti ji called out? I'll take a quick detour with Venerable Dasel, who had actually answered the question last time and said that there is a common purpose. The Sangha actually comes down to a common purpose, right? So I see a kind of common purpose here as well, Venerable Desel. So would you like to give your perspective of what Triptiji just described as her Sangha?
Well, I mean, I think in the beauty of the practice of Buddhism is that it's for each of us to understand, how we're walking the path. And the Buddha himself said, don't believe anything, no matter who has said it, even if I myself have said it, unless it makes sense to your own knowing. Now, the way Tripti defined the Sangha is, of course, how His Holiness during these last 3 days of teachings here in Ladakh have welcomed, 70,000 people here in person and people all around the world online who are not necessarily Buddhists, but who can benefit from the wisdom and teachings of the Buddha. Primarily, these 3 days teachings were on compassion, and as well as on the guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life, which talks about practical human needs to cultivate things like wisdom and patience, perseverance, um, investigating, using our right view. And so these are very human capacities. These aren't necessarily just Buddhist capacities. But when we talk about the teachings of the Buddha still being present in the world today, we must really appreciate the fact that there's an ordained Sangha. Because if we just went with the lay Sangha definition, as much as I respect what Triptiji said, there would be no holding of the Dharma. In other words, the Sangha that's ordained has committed their whole lives. They're the experts, they're the professionals to really learning the scriptures, the Dharma, and being able to then teach and transmit them so that it's a very clear within a context of why did the Buddha create an ordained Sangha? Because he wanted those who would go forth from the householder life, from marriage, from children, from work, from all the social community obligations to single pointedly focus on walking the path and really embodying and viewing the Dharma to be able to share it genuinely through ways of teaching. So that's really important that we understand that without having created that form of the Sangha, probably the Buddha Dharma wouldn't still be available in a very pure way the way it is today in the world. I mean, His Holiness the Dalai Lama is the 14th holder of that title. And so that's more than 14 centuries of keeping the Dharma very actively alive through, a monastic system, which is preserving it. But on the other hand, having said that, that's why it's very important then for anyone who's coming to the teachings, as all of us, well, at least myself, I came to them as a layperson, would investigate to see if the teachings had value to our lives. So anybody can do that. You don't have to be a Buddhist to see if these teachings are valuable to you, if there's wisdom there, if it improves your life, if it creates a warmer heart, more compassion, more loving kindness, more patience, if it reduces anger, if it gives you more insight into the human dilemma of how suffering arises, then anyone can come and benefit from the Dharma. Um, and anyone, maybe that's what we want, is to try to create a worldwide Sangha of humanity. But that's a very new agey kind of loose term to use in the sense of Sangha. But that's freedom to each of us to define. But we shouldn't go too far blurring the lines. Recently, I heard someone speaking actually on a sattva conversation saying there's no more need for monastic sangha, which I highly disagree with. We really have to try to understand the Buddha himself founded the Fourfold Sangha for a reason. And those are the pillars that uphold. The monastics have a certain job description, if you will, and the lay people have a certain freedom within their own conventional lives to create what it is that's meaningful for them using the Dharma. But we want to still have valid practitioners who are making Dharma 24/7 the main and only focus, the number one priority of their life. That's really what the ordained Sangha is doing. So, but I'm not going to try to say what it is exactly, because that's up to each of us, as I started my answer with, as the Buddha himself said, each of us must decide what is valid. But I would like us to consider that without these kinds of formal institutions, it's not really possible to maintain pure knowledge and wisdom traditions that will be able to be passed on and still transform and be relevant.
Thank you so much, Dasel. Actually, that helps clarify. I think, uh, while it is up to us to define who is it that is helping us on our journey, we also know what the ordained sangha brings in as value to our lives, and I think Triptiji agrees to that as well. Um, would you like to share a couple of stories, Triptiji, while Bhikkhuni's connection gets back, of your personal experiences? If you've had specific incidents where you think you've had these Dharma sisters or brothers who have really helped you and egged you on?
100%. So I'll start with the most recent one. About 4 years ago, I was going through some very challenging times with respect to some personal situations. And I was completely lost because I was looking for a way to find some meaning, in why things were happening the way they were happening in my life. It's just one of those times when you feel trapped in the emotional narrative, what you've built for yourself, and
Right.
you are unable to look at anything objectively at all. And just as a matter of chance, one of my childhood friends reached out to me. Her name is Elora, and we had not spoken for many, many years. She is a Buddhist, and she's been following the Dharma path for very many years, I think over 20 years. She herself was not doing too well health-wise, but she listened to what I was going through, and she just put everything that she herself was facing totally aside and made it her mission to egg me on. She was the one who introduced me to Jetsunma and her teaching. And then, luckily for me, Jetsunma was visiting Singapore, where I live, and I could meet her in person. She was the one who introduced me to the Nalanda tradition and Geshe Dorji Damdulla's teaching. which has also become a very big part of my Dharma journey. So she was a very, very pivotal Dharma sister for me, especially given her own health condition, how she put everything aside to just show me compassion. Um, Last year was another time when my Dharma sisters surrounded me completely. I lost both my parents within 5 months of each other. Um, and uh, I was just surrounded with the Sangha who supported me in every way possible. Um, I just have no, way of expressing how they brought, um, emotional anchorage back into my life, because there was so much compassion, kindness, prayers, time. I became a big receiver. And you hear words like acts of kindness. I felt it, um, completely directly, and it was from the ordained Sangha who reached out as well, um, and from students like myself. But I got so much love, and it's taken, I'm still not over the death of both of my parents so quickly, but I'm so much more stable than I was, at the same time last year, when one of them had passed already, and I didn't know I was going to lose the next one in another couple of months. But those are real stories of, it wasn't my family, it wasn't my friends, it was the Sangha that brought the wisdom that I needed into my life at that time for real life situations. How to deal with dukkha when it comes to you in a wave like that.
Well, thanks so much. I have no words actually. Thanks so much, Triptiji, for sharing those deeply personal stories. I had no idea, first of all, I've known you for so long. I had no idea you were going through what you were. And, I can completely relate to it because I think my journey also started with the death of a parent. So, somewhere I think that immense dukkha is what drove us towards pursuing, the dharma. Thank you so much for sharing. And I think,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, sorry, go ahead,
one
Venerable.
thing I just want to add in is one, without suffering, there's no real renunciation. It really wakes us up to what's going on here in this life. So, as much as I also empathize with everything you shared, Tripti ji, and having lost your parents very quickly within a short amount of time, that was also the time where your mind knew you needed to learn more. And the point that you make about just meeting one Dharma lay practitioner. You didn't have to meet a big Sangha community. You just met one genuine practitioner who brought to you her real commitment to the Dharma. So I just wanted to share that I really appreciate this point that you shared, which is it's not about quantity, it's about quality. It's about really having your own connection to this one Dharma practitioner who just showed you how she's walking the path very selflessly, putting your concerns ahead, showing you genuine compassion, and then really connecting you to genuine Dharma. And
Absolutely.
as a layperson herself, she was connected to genuine teachings and monastics and Jetsuma Tenzin Palmo and Ngeshi Dorji Damdula. So then you went in through a door through the layperson, but you got really connected in the room with the real, ordained Sangha that's really got the precious teachings in their heart minds that they can really then invite you to learn. A real teacher just says, a real teacher isn't looking for disciples and students. They're just sharing openly for the benefit of whoever's there. And then it's up to each of us to take on what's helpful and meaningful. And I rejoice that that you had that good connection to be able to do that.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then
I think, the fact that you
make meaning out
highlighted,
of the suffering in the sense.
sorry, your network connection is kind of, there's a certain lag. So I thought you'd almost ended. Yeah. Yeah. So it was absolutely valid point that from Venerable there, that Tripti ji was able to find this one person who was completely committed to the Dharma and was able to see the dukkha and that Tripti ji was going through and be able to put her in touch with Dharma as well. Thank you so much, Venerable, for sharing that as well. With that, I'll move to Bhikkuni Vandana. Um, we spoken about the Sangha for a long time now. What would you say are the most important qualities of a Sangha as per the sutras, right? What do the sutras say? And uh, are we really at a disadvantage if we don't have a Sangha? I'm afraid you're on
So,
mute, Bhikkuni. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, First of all, thank you to invite me here, Smita. You gave so good information, Venerable Tenzin Dasel. So, like we said, we need a sangha. Without sangha, we can't do anything because the sangha is the third refugee in Buddhism. The common over all schools is that the Arya Sangha, and a foremost form of this third as well. As for recognition, current life form, the interpresent of what is the jewel depends on how the school defines Sangha, right? So the Sangha of the blessed ones, disciples, Saukas. So first quality is practicing the good way, Supadipanno. Right? Second one is practicing the upright way, Ujupatipanno. Practicing the knowledgeable or logical way, Nyayapatipanno. Practicing the proper way, Samechipatipanno. That is the four there of a person, the eight types of individuals, the Sangha of the blessed ones, disciple is. First one is a where worthy of gifts, Ahuneyo. Second one is worthy of hospitality, Pahuneyo. Third one is worthy of offerings, Dakhineyo. And fourth one is worthy of reverential salutation, Anjali Karaniya. And fifth one is the unsurprised field of merit for the word. It's a Anuttaram Puyankhetang Lokasami. So when we say when we say Sangha Refuge Sutta, it's a uh, Sangha Sutta. So in that you can say Ahuneyo, Pahuneyo, Dakhineyo, Anjali Karaniyo, Anuttaram Puyankhetang Lokasati. So in our tradition, we learn that as an individual, we cannot do much that. Uh, that is why taking refuge in a sangha, uh, refuge is a community, is a very strong and important practice. When I say I take a refuge in a sangha, it doesn't mean that I want to express my devotion. No, it's not a question. Uh, it's not a question of a devotion. It's a question of practice. So without being in a sangha, without being supported by a group of friends who are motivated by the same ideal and practice, we cannot go far. Right? We need someone to guide us continuously. So if we do not have a supportive sangha, we will not be getting the kind of support we need for our practice. That we need to nourish our bodhicitta, the strong desire to cultivate love, understanding in the ourselves. Right? Sometimes we call it a beginner's mind, the mind of beginners. Is always very beautiful, very strong in a good and healthy sangha. There is an encouragement for our beginner's mind, for our bodhicitta. So the sangha is the soil and we are the seed. No matter how beautiful, how various our seed is, if the soil does not provide us with vitality, our seed will die. So like we have our different mentalities, so we don't have one problem and we don't have same thoughts. So we can't say that only one person can solve my all question or something else. So to practice right mindfulness, we need the right environment, and that environment is our sangha. Right? Without sangha, we can't get the courage correct way, the correct path to how to practice that. To practice right mindfulness, we need the right environment, right? And that environment is our Sangha. Without Sangha, we are very weak. In a society where everyone is rushing, everyone is being carried away by their habit, energies, practice is a very difficult. That is why the Sangha is our salvation. The Sangha where everyone is practicing mindful walking, mindful speaking, mindful eating seems to be the only chance for us to succeed in the ending the vicious cycle. Right? So you ask that how Sangha help us, right? So the preference of Sangha is a wonderful opportunity to allow the collective energy of the Sangha to penetrate into our body. And consciousness, we profit a lot from the collective energy, right? Like when we go to Sangha, like Venerable Dasel in right now in the Dalai Lama's place at Himachal. So she knows the vibes are there. And when the Dalai Lama speaks and he gave Dhamma talk, the vibes are very different because he's not sitting alone there. The Sangha was Sangha, like she said, 70,000 people are there, right? So all people's mind was focusing on the Dhamma, what he's saying, and their mind and their heart is pure because they are listening to Dhamma and they want to learn the Dhamma. Although we can rely on the energy of mindfulness that is generated by our personal practice. Sometimes it is it is not enough. But if you know how to use that energy of mindfulness in order to receive the mindfulness in order to receive the collective energy of the Sangha, you will have a powerful source of energy for your transformation and healing. Because without Sangha, it's nothing possible. Your body, your consciousness, and your environment are like a garden. There are many, maybe a few trees and bushes that are drying, and you may feel overwhelmed by anguished and suffering at the sight of that. You may be unaware that there are still many trees in your garden that are solid. Yeah, like sometimes something bad happened in we think like yes, my life was completely destroyed. I don't have anything to live more. Like so, we
Yeah.
only stuck with one thing like that. One second. Okay. So
Yeah.
they dwell firmly in the present moment, not allowing worries or regrets to spoil the present moment. Sitting close to these people, walking close to these people, you can profit from their energy and restore your balance. So, when their energy of mindfulness is combined with yours, you will be able to touch beauty and happiness. So sometimes like you can experience when you go to some monastery and that monastery is empty, so you feel something bad inside. But when you are in a Sangha, so your heart is full of joy. You see the beauty, because when we saw these robes, the happiness, the joy come from our heart. We can't explain that in words, right? Nothing is important than your peace and happiness in the here and now. One day you will like a dead body and no longer be able to touch the beauty of a flower. Make a good use of that your time. Practice touching the positive aspects of life in your and around you. We never try to do that. We never try to see the beauty inside us and outside. We just crying that I'm suffering. We are just doing all the time. Don't lock yourself behind your doors and fight alone. If you think that by yourself you cannot go back to impress strong feelings, you can ask one, two, or three friends to sit next to you and to help you with their support, right? Like in our lives, we sometimes face so many difficulties, and we ask our friends to give suggestion, and we ask to give some kind of support to us so we can go through from that situation, right? when then sorry So when you allow yourself to be in a sangha, the way a drop of water allows itself to be in a river, the energy of the sangha can penetrate into you, and transformation and healing will become possible, right? But you are not allowing yourself to be in a sangha. Like Venerable Tenzin Dasel said, that someone said that we don't need anymore the monastic sangha. If there is no sangha, so it will be like there is a river, but there is no water in that, right? So there will be sangha, but there will be dhamma, but no sangha, right? So without water, how would the river will like look like,
Exist.
right?
Yeah.
So I think we all like a river with full of water, not empty, right? So if you like the dhamma, you need sangha. Without sangha, there is a dhamma. I think dhamma will be disappear if there is sangha. There is no sangha. Like Venerable Tenzin Dasel said, there is a fourfold sangha: bhikkhu, bhikkhuni, upasak, and upasika. So we all have to be with each other. The Sangha is a wonderful home. Every time you go back to the Sangha, you feel that you can breathe more easily, you can work more mindfully, you can better enjoy the blue sky, the white clouds, and the cypress tree in your yard. Why? Because the Sangha members practice going home many times a day through walking, breathing, cooking, doing their daily activities mindfully. Everyone in the Sangha is practicing in the same way, walking mindfully, sitting mindfully, eating mindfully, smiling, enjoying each moment of life. We are always running, and it's hard for us to stop and be here in the present moment to encounter life with Sangha. You will be able to learn the art of stopping. So, if you are not with Sangha, so I think you ask that what is the disadvantage. So, I think you will lose all the beauty of your life without the Sangha. Yes,
Oh, thank you so much,
thank you.
Bhikkuni. That was very well articulated on, how important the role of a sangha is on our journey, and I think you couldn't have said it better. With that, I'll come to Venerable Dasel. Um, I was reading this quote by Thich Nhat Hanh, Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, in one of his books. A sangha is more than a community, and I think Bhikkhuni spoke a lot about how it is. It is like a practice itself. But I would like you to take that a little further. And
It is, yeah, the
yeah,
words are less to describe the how Sangha is important for you.
yeah. How so? His quote said, "A sangha is more than a community. It's a deep spiritual practice." So, what are your thoughts on that?
It's a deep spiritual practice. Is that the end part of the quote?
Yeah.
So, okay. Um, yes, of course it is. But, however, most of our connection with the Dharma started through meeting somebody who is in the Sangha. Whether in Tripti's case, it was a very devoted lay practitioner friend who was studying Dharma and living it, practicing it by showing her compassion, her availability. Or in my case, by meeting a very beautiful smiling monk in robes and getting to know more about his genuine, beautiful humanity. It started with coming in contact with a practitioner who was already holding the Dharma in their body, speech, and mind. And in both of these cases, it wasn't walking into a big community of Sangha and meeting the Dharma there. So my own feeling is we need the foundation of beings who are themselves living in the Dharma because they've met somebody who's understood that, and now they've become a practitioner, a member of either the ordained or lay Sangha. But then that's where the rubber hits the road. If you follow my metaphor, that means they've received the turning of the wheel of Dharma. They're knowing the practices, and then they're actually living those practices. And that is to each of us the main point of following Buddha Dharma. It's a very individual path that we have to walk. And even the Buddha himself said, if you cannot find others to practice with, carry on your own. In other words, it's not dependent upon always being in the presence of the Sangha. It's much more dependent on how you're practicing Dharma through your own body, speech, and mind. And that's where it goes very, very deep into our own awareness. That's where these kind of connections that make sense, that bring us further along the practices from having just learned about the Fourfold Noble Path and suffering, then into the sutras and the scriptures, then into some higher practices, maybe like retreat. Who's doing all that but each of us ourselves? We're the ones sitting in the room listening to the teachings. We're the ones contemplating, doing our practices in the morning and the evening. We're the ones deciding to go on retreat. So individually, you see what Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, the great master, is pointing to is that the actual Sangha in practice, the seed of it is much deeper within each of us. And that's where the real practice happens. And so, as I said earlier, it's the quality of the practitioner, not the quantity of how many people are there in the room. Because even the Buddha said, even the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas can only share their wisdom. They cannot open up their minds and put that into your heart. You yourself must walk the path. And what Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh was brilliant at was helping people create practices that would be individual practices that would be meaningful, to be able to do that very deeply for themselves, whether through walking meditation, whether through the mindfulness practices that Bhikkuni mentioned, whether through just simple eating with awareness, holding the noble silence. These are very important and very accessible, because in the end, these are the practices that will transform the body, speech, and mind out of the conventional confused state into the higher views. So I think he's pointing at also that everyone, whether they consider themselves Buddhist or not, have this awareness, have this capacity to identify Buddha nature, whether you call it Buddha nature or not, but have the awareness to see what is helpful, what is beneficial, what brings more peace, more happiness, more kindness, and what is not beneficial, and what brings more suffering, more confusion, more hatred, more depression. And so he's pointing to each of us that deep within us, we have each the capacity to bring that awareness and to look at our life very clearly. And this is where the practice of the Dharma has to happen for everybody.
So I'll just follow that up with a quick question, Venerable, to you. In the early scriptures, the Sangha really referred to the monks and nuns who were at least a stream enterer, right? So it's really important
Sorry,
to
the
call
last
out
part I missed. Who are at least
stream enterer. Stream enterer.
stream enterers. Yeah. Okay. Got it. Mm-hmm.
So it's important to call out the difference here between a conventional Sangha and the Arya Sangha. So would you be able to help us with that?
Yeah. Okay. So yes, I mean, the Sangha is referring to in the early scriptures that there are beings, monks, there are people who have left the householder capacity. They've really turned away from conventional life, that they had a deep interest in no more, really laying down the burden. And so doing that meant that their mind was already ripe, was already able to come into the flow of Dharma, which is going against the conventional. The conventional worries about things like how much money, where to live, where to get the next food, marriages. These are all very conventional. Actually, if we look at them carefully, very materialistic based concerns. And they're very driven by mind streams that have not looked deeply at the nature of reality. And so there's a lot of confusion. That's why in the middle of the wheel of suffering, there are three animals in the Vajrayana tradition. There's a rooster that symbolizes desire. So we all start with desire. That's how we came into this life. We desired some kind of human form, some human existence. Those desires then grow for taste, for scent, for sights, for sounds, for contact, touch. When we can't get what we want, it leads to anger, it leads to aversion and frustration. And those are both driven by ignorance. So the aversion signified by a snake for anger, and the ignorance is signified by a pig, meaning we don't really see that by looking for this kind of conventional happiness, that it's very temporary by its nature anyway. It only sometimes shows itself to give a little happiness, but has a very short shelf life, a very beginning, middle, and quick end, and then you have to look again for more to replace it. So the stream enterer is able to really look at that and go, yeah, that's right. I mean, how many boyfriends or girlfriends have I had? How much different tasty food can I photograph and send out to my friends and then eat, and then it's gone? And then what comes out the other end, it doesn't really look like tasty food. You know, the stream enterers looked at these things and been like, yeah, where's the lasting happiness in that? And so that renunciation has to come in. So the mind is really kind of quite clear now that it's not that you can't enjoy some of these things, but you're not fooled by it. Your mind isn't then driven by chasing after it, craving it. You understand deeply this impermanent nature of the reality. Beings are born, there's a middle point, there's a death. Actually, in Tibetan Buddhism, the birth is considered as seeing as the beginning of the death, because they're always there simultaneously. So the stream enterer is kind of like, oh yeah, I see that, and I'm not going to swim in that ocean of samsara anymore. I'm going to look for the far shore of, coming out of that confusion of the ocean of samsara. So there's a very deep, strong commitment of renunciation. And as Tripti mentioned, often that comes through the death of a loved one, loss of our capacity physically, maybe loss of financial stability. It comes definitely through personal awareness of suffering. I've only met one person who said to me, oh, I don't really have had that experience. I don't know how deeply he has taken refuge or not, or if he calls himself a Buddhist. But even non-Buddhists, they share with me all the time their sadnesses and what can they do about now they're ill and they have to give up their lives. And there are things that we can share, but it's like they're kind of just getting to that point then, because that control isn't there anymore. The stream enterer hasn't necessarily gotten to that point where everything is about to be lost and the next life is going to, but there's some things happen during this life where they're like, wow, let me look at this and try to, as Tripti said so nicely, try to make sense of putting things in a more
I think we are losing Venerable's connection. So while Venerable connects back, I'll quickly go to Tripti ji.
So I don't know if anyone is there. I'll just continue with this. So the stream enterer has definitely renounced the samsara because they've experienced the suffering themselves and they don't want that anymore. And so then there's a sense of really striving towards not just liberation from the suffering, but in the Vajrayana Mahayana practice to really coming out of suffering and finding enlightenment, which means
looks like Venerable has patchy network back in Ladakh. So while we're waiting on her, we'll quickly go to Tripti ji and look at the flip side a little bit, right? The Sangha is not perfect either, right? And given that we're both from a lay practitioner background, do you see sometimes a sense of competition? Because I've seen it. I've seen it in a lot of ways. Oh, I'm more accomplished than you, or, I've done this, or I've, been able to, I had this vision in my meditation, or in some cases, I actually had an interesting case where my friends, a couple of sisters who were in the same organization and started competing on who will become more known in their own community, right? Become kind of a higher practitioner than the other. So there are these nuances that do come up, right? So what has your experience been? Does it somehow push us to compete with each other sometimes, or maybe make the ego surface a little? What has your experience been?
Smita, I have also had, for lack of a better word, competitiveness show up like that from other people in the layperson sangha, because that's the experience I have more
Yeah.
closely
Hmm.
of. It goes as far as, oh, did you do your quiz for the Nalanda diploma course? I said, yes. So, how much did you score? Like, we are not competing on percentage of marks on an online quiz, please. Uh,
Right.
so, yes, it can be as flippant as that. And I have also seen the virtuousness of the path being taken as an ego booster. So you're getting more and more egoful because you're like, I am, too good. I am doing
Yeah.
the right things.
Yeah.
What I have realized for myself, Smitha, is that the deeper you are in the journey, and the people that you meet, the more you realize how little you know. Actually,
Right.
it completely annihilates the ego. So, and when I look at the ordained Sangha, I find that even more true than for the layman Sangha. I have never seen Jetsunma, for example, never say, I'm going to retreat because I need to. I mean, she always says, I'm going to retreats because I'm going to go deeper into something. It's never like, I have arrived. I know everything there is to know.
Right.
Um,
Right.
they always have something aspirational for themselves. They don't talk about, the fact that they know something inside out. In fact, I try to join the weekly sangha of Jetsunma that happens online, and she will be asked questions and she'll say, "Well, I don't know." She's so upfront about a lack of ego of any kind at all, and then she will try to turn the question into the real question, which is where you realize the wisdom that she has already. um, what I've found happens very often with the real teachers, which Smita, you would have experienced as well, with Dorji Dandul, for example. He will say, it's okay if you don't understand it. The imprints will stay in your mind. And at the
Right.
right time, it will start making sense to you. Which for me is the biggest encouragement, because you are listening to teachings, you are listening to materials that, quite honestly, even in my work environment, I don't have the intellectual um, stimulation of the kind that some of this work represents in the Dharma side. And you're like, my God, this is MIT level material that you are studying, all through your engineering and everything else that you've gone through. You haven't read or heard or seen the intellect level of what is being taught, and then being taught to how to take that and make it so simple that you can apply it to your everyday life.
Right.
Um, actually it's if you really look at that, it the deepest of humility comes to you when you say, I know nothing. There is nothing that I actually know, and that is more true for me than for anybody else.
Thank you for sharing that, Tripti ji. I think we have a lot of common experiences there. Uh, Bhikkuni Vandana, would you like to share your experiences of what are the kind of challenges in the Sangha that you have seen? in the monastic order, is this a sense of competition that you're hearing from Tripti ji there in the monastic sangha as well? I know more than you, or my practice is stronger than
Yeah.
you, that kind of competition.
Yeah, yes. Because until we don't realize and we don't see the real Dhamma, right? Sorry. So until we don't go deep in a Dhamma, until we don't see the wisdom, right? We were like, yes, I'm more. Everyone like popularity. Why not? Everyone needs highlight. Yes, I'm here. Just come to me. Just don't go there. Why? Because I look good. I speak good. It doesn't matter that, like Tripti just said, when we come to a monk or nun, so we only need their wisdom, their kindness, and their guidance to lead us in a Dhamma, how to walk on the path of Dhamma. So if some monks will do like that, we will be like disagree to have a sangha. Like Venerable Tenzin Dasel said that we don't need a monastic sangha. Someone said it's true because that kind of things are happening. Because of that, people are not supporting the sangha anymore, right? uh yeah, with me also that happens because I'm a youngest one in India. You can say like I'm the youngest nun, youngest Bhikkuni in India here. So I heard so many comments like that, that you are so young, you don't know anything, you don't understand how to do, how to say, how to talk and how to do work. No, you don't know anything. So just go back and sit there. You don't need to do anything work. We will do. If there is a work like housework, or like if you we need to arrange any program or something, so they call me, yes, just come and do all that work. But when it's come to give some responsibility about sangha, they said no, she's a little girl, she don't know anything, right? She is so young, how she can handle that, right? So they are not encouraging me that yes, you are young, and in future you have to handle the sangha, you have to lead the sangha. If they said like that, so it will be encouraging me more, like yes, if why not, if the sangha, if my family is supporting me, then why I can't do, right? So whenever we go outside, it doesn't matter people what people say, but what matter for us, it's what our family says, right? What how our family treats us, how our family supports us, it's that more important thing. So if my family, my sangha is not supporting me, so how I can go further, right? So it's a very common, and sangha also in a lay person, because Buddha don't wanted to give ordination to women, right? So I think that there is, because of these things, that women are so jealous. They have so jealousy with each other. Why she's going up and why I'm going down? Why she's getting all the followers? Why people calling her only? Why not me? I'm also a monk. I'm also a nun, but the people not coming to me. Why to her? Right? And I just want to do like this. I don't want to follow the Vinaya. So there is a lots of things that I don't want to mention because it's not good to mention bad qualities of the sangha. But yeah, it's also happens in a sangha because the lack of the knowledge of the Dhamma, lack of the wisdom, and lack of the Vinaya. That's all. I don't say anything more.
Right. Thank you so much, Bhikkuni.
Yeah.
So that's another question I wanted to ask, but I didn't get around to, is like, uh, we should not be saying negative things about the Sangha, right? Because they are the ones that, I mean, that is
Yeah.
part of the Vinaya, that's part of the
Yes.
code as well.
Yeah.
So, um, so when it comes to cases like abuse, there are cases like abuse within the Sangha as well.
Yes.
How do you really, how do we, even layperson, right, even layperson, in their interactions with the monastic sangha or within the monastic community, how do we, what are the cautions and guardrails we need to keep in mind, right? uh, Given these situations, how do we deal with these situations? Because as per the code, you don't really speak ill of the sangha. So how do you tackle these situations? Oh, I guess we lost Bhikkuni Vandana as well. Today is not a day, good day for the internet here. Uh, so while we wait on that, Tripti ji, if you had anything to add on this topic of what do you think, what are the challenges you have experienced, or you know, any cautions and guardrails that you have had for yourself?
Around the Sangha.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I think it's very important to start discerning. And discernment is such an important thing because, again, satisfying your own ego. Because when you see good things, you automatically get positively, like if someone is lavishing praise on you, you know, human nature is you feel attracted to that. Never more true than for a sangha, you know. So if you can discern the sangha that is good for your journey, and that's such a difficult thing, Smitha, to discern, because difficulties are not negative things that are happening to you. They are a way for you to get more aligned on your path. So the discernment is a big thing I think one should watch out for, in terms of a guardrail for the journey. I'm going to give the mic back to you because we have Bhikkuni here. So while her
Yeah.
connection is okay, maybe you want
Yeah.
to ask her
Yeah.
a question. Yeah.
Yeah. So Bhikkhuni, if you could, I'll repeat that question. I'm not sure how much you
Yeah.
caught before you left.
Yes.
What are some of the cautions or guardrails we need to keep in our mind in our interaction with the Sangha, given that there have been some instances of abuse, or, I personally have been in a situation as well when I was planning to visit teaching. I had made a booking for the room and everything, and this was near a monastery, and rather it was within the monastery, and I wasn't able to go to that teaching, right? So the monk just called me and said, so why don't you send me the money for the room? So it was a situation where I really didn't know, because on one hand, when we see a person in a robe, and there is, you automatically think of a, okay, monastic, he's moved further along the path in the dharma, but then he's asking to give me the money which I shouldn't be giving. If I were donating to, doing charity with it, it's fine. But if
Yeah.
I'm personally to give it to him, it's a wrong thing, right? So there are
Yeah.
such situations like that for us as a lay people also, where we'll probably get caught in such situations, or within the monastics and the sangha as well. There are cases of abuse that we have heard about. So how do you think we should deal with it, and what is the caution that we need to apply?
First of all, like I said, that we go to Sangha because we need some peace in our mind, right? We need some kind of direction in our life because we don't know that on which way we should walk. So that's why we go to see a Sangha, right? So until the Sangha, the ordained person, he or she doesn't think that she want to get enlightened, right? So she or he can't achieve anything. So even Buddha said that one person can act until one moment, right? They can't act forever. So like uh, Tripti ji said that Tenzin Dasel, she's so kind and she has so wisdom. So when we saw a monk or a nun, so we can see that on her face, on or his face. Like we can see some kind of wisdom, some kind of kindness, some kind of peace that not everyone have. Why they have? Because they do practice, they have the uh, teachings, or they learn so many things from Buddha's teaching. That's why when we saw them or when we heard them, we feel something inside us. We feel peace, and we feel satisfied, because all the question we can find in their desana, right? So if you met some kind of this kind of monks or nun, so I will suggest you that you should not be in touch with that person, that she is a monk or nun, doesn't matter. You should not be contact with them, because even Buddha said, when we are donating something, we should not be
Oops. I think Bhikkuni lost her connection again. So I'll continue to chat with you, Tripti ji. I think we can discuss some of the recent developments, like with the pandemic, how it opened up avenues for online sanghas, and the potential to find Dharma sisters and brothers anywhere in the world. How has that helped you, and what aspects worked and what didn't work?
Yep. Actually, for me, it's been a gift because, I have continued to work over the last few years. I mean, I'm still working. Do you want to ask questions to Bhikkhuni first, Smita?
No, you
She's
can
here.
continue. Sorry,
Okay,
sorry, I
no,
have
no,
network
because
issues. Yeah.
yeah, I know that's why I'm suggesting because anyway.
It's
No,
okay.
So
we'll come back to her. If you could
okay,
just, yeah,
yeah,
you
yeah.
could continue.
So you know, I would have never had the opportunity to attend teachings, to be in connection with the kind of sangha online platforms that have become available. Um, Over the last 3 years, I spent a great amount of time, practicing. It's also given me that opportunity because travel stopped and everything stopped. I could spend the time I was spending in airports, I was spending at home studying, or joining discussions or teachings in the Sangha. Um, Today, 95% of my Sangha I have not even met in person. So, but I feel like they are true supporters for my journey in every way possible that there is. And I'm talking now about the lay sangha as well as the ordained sangha. I have had access to teachings, community that would have never been possible because I would also not think it's possible. So that part has been amazing. Um, in spite of that, I would really love to meet the people I have not met. I would love to be in their presence. I would love to be part of the energy that exists in a room where people are exchanging ideas, sitting next to each other. I would love to be silent with them. I think that's the part that I do miss.
Right. Very well said, Tripti ji. I think Bhikkhuni earlier highlighted how the collective energy is part of the Dharma journey. So, Bhikkhuni, do you have anything to say about that? Like, how does an online journey actually differ
Yeah,
from a
I think
physical one?
we discussed it about it on first part, right? You already asked this question to me.
No, this
Yes.
is more about an online sangha versus a physical sangha, right? What
Yeah.
aspects of the physical sangha cannot be replicated online? One is the collective
Yes.
energy
Exactly.
that you talked about. What
Yes, I
is there
mentioned
anything?
we.
Yeah, is there
Uh,
anything else that we cannot replicate in an online sangha?
yeah, like I before mentioned that we don't have to bring the joy when we come to the sangha, right? We can also bring our sufferings with us, but we have to walk on the path of joy with our sufferings, right? So we have to share joy with our brother, sister, everyone. So like I said, the sangha is a wonderful home. So whenever we come to our home and we feel safe, we feel like, okay, I'm tired, I will go to sleep. But when we are outside, we can't sleep anywhere, right? We can't talk like whatever, right? So when you are in a sangha, so when you go in the sangha, so you feel the energy, that you can feel that energy of the sangha, and the sangha can penetrate into you. So all
Yeah, so
the
I was
sanghas.
asking about online, like we are
Yeah,
meeting
yeah.
right
So
now.
I'm
Yeah.
telling the difference. Like if you
Eh,
go offline and if you go online, so by you can see, like now you're watching me, but you can't see that what I'm doing and how I'm sitting right now, and with me how many sanghas are there, how many bhikkhunis are there, right? And how we do practice, like until we don't see the efforts one is making, we can't give them the respect, right? So now we knows that everyone make videos or everything, but we know the reality, how they do edits, they do something cut-offs, but they don't show the reality, right? So when we see the reality, we can give them the respect, but we are not seeing the reality, right? Online we only seeing that what they wanted to show us. So when
right.
we go to the sangha, we can feel the energy, we can feel the vibrations, and we can even feel the presence of the Dhamma and the Buddha, right? But it's online is very different. When I before I also mentioned that when we saw some pictures on internet and we go there, the difference is a very big, right? But when you saw the picture, you can't describe it point to point, you can't. But when you visit that place, you can describe every every like detail, small details, you can describe that. Why? Because you observe, you live that moment, you live that place, right? So you enjoyed that place, whatever their river or their flowers. You have seen the how the flowers color is, what is the flowers colors, what is the sky's colors, how what is the grass colors, everything you have observed, so you can tell correctly. But without observation, you can't tell anything. By seeing picture, you
Right.
won't be interesting. So online is like something boring, and we won't get what we want to get from the sangha.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very important point that Bhikkuni highlighted, right? I mean, something that we cannot take for granted is one is trust, that everything online, we don't know how much of it is real. And the
Yes.
second aspect is the lack of the experience. It's not so much experiential as it is just intellectual, probably, right? Online is probably you can engage intellectually, but the experience aspect of it, of the Sangha, is lacking, right? So thank you so much for that, Bhikkhuni. With that, I think we'll look at audience questions and have Ray point out if there are any audience questions.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll come back to the first. Okay. So here, this is a question from a friend who sent it on chat to me directly. As sisters of Dharma, how should we maintain and enhance our pure friendship and help each other on the path of practicing the Dharma? How should we maintain and enhance our pure friendship and help each other? Bhikkhuni, would you like to take that?
Yeah, sure. Because
Yeah.
we do suffer, right? So when we come to an like it's for lay person or ordained, for both, right? For both, she is
Yeah.
asking. Ah,
This is a
okay.
lay
So
person. This is a lay person. Yeah. But you
no,
could
I mean,
answer for both. Yeah.
she's asking for lay person or ordinate
Yeah.
person, for both. Okay. So
Lay.
when okay, when the lay person she is suffering from something, so she need to trust in her teacher, like ordinate nun. So if she trusted in her, so she can like ask her all the questions. But she's not trusting in her, that's why she cannot ask. if you cannot ask a question, then how can we know that you are suffering from something, right? So the bonding, like if I am suffering from something, so like Buddha said, what you know, it doesn't matter that I also know. I don't know anything, everything, right? There is something that you know, I don't know. So yeah, there's a possibility. Sometimes it's happened that a ordained person doesn't know that layperson knows. So when we communicate, we need to talk like a friendly, like if you don't know anything, I will teach you. If I know something, I will teach you, right? So this kind of bonding we need, that kind of friendship we need. But what we do, like we afraid to speak up in front of the ordained person. That's why the bonding in lay person and ordained person that not maintain that much. First of all, the lay person need to be free. Then don't need to afraid to ask any question, because we are here to teach you only. We are here to guide you only. If you will afraid to ask a question, so we can't guide you, right? So so many people do like that, but some people will openly talk and they got so many like close to us. Now they are like friends, and something happened to them, they directly call us and they ask us, this kind of happened, what should I do, right? So when we do trust in someone, so that person will put faith in us, right? First we need to put faith in them, but we are not doing that thing. That's why the bonding in ordained and lay person is not making. Because sometimes ordained person was afraid that if I tell the lay person, he will tell to everyone, she will tell to everyone, and what will happen, everyone will laugh at me, right? And lay person same things, that if I will tell to ordained person go to everyone's home, wherever invite them, they will go. And if mistakenly if they mention my name, that that person came to me and they have this kind of sufferings or something, so what will happen to me, right? So that kind of afraid we have, that kind of fear we have, first we have to remove that fear, and we need to be free to ask any question to them. So how we can be good friends and be close.
Thank you so much, Bhikkuni. I think you brought up a very good point of being able to trust and build that faith, which will then faith in each other, that which will then lead to building further friendship. Tripti ji, I have one question for you. For people who are just starting out on their Dharma journey, how do they go about building a sangha, finding a sangha, especially when there are not many who are, engaged with dharma, or are not on the same wavelength as you would say, or looking in the spiritual path or direction. How and where can we go about finding these people?
It's a very, very good question, Smitha, because as much as uh, good sanghas exist, as many not so good sanghas also exist. And by not so good, I mean who would not be as supportive of your path going forward. Um, I would recommend anybody who's trying to find the right sangha to first find the right teachers. You will find that the right teachers have the right followers. And for that, you have to do enough research. You have to look at credible sources. You have to look at, and you should do as much research as you can. Don't start just believing what you see published, because anybody who can speak has an opinion. And again, the point about discernment, which is you need to read many opinions and say that makes sense and this doesn't make sense. Look for published authors, look for people. I mean, I would go as far as to say start with the highest there is on earth right now. Start
Right.
looking at His Highness, and look at the books he's published, and then start seeing the lineage that you can bring down close enough for you to have access to, and say, could I get access to the teachings of this teacher? And when you are finding access to that teacher, who's most likely going to be ordained, which is a very good thing, you will find a sangha that is following that teacher, and that sangha will adopt you whether you like it or not, and you will become part of that sangha. So my thing would be, look for authenticity. Don't take things on face value, because everybody has an opinion, and the internet has given rise to as many not so good teachers as there are good teachers.
Yeah, very well said, Tripti ji. And from my own personal experience, I think what has worked for me also is that uh, don't be afraid to just ask. Like, I wouldn't have thought, or several people I know wouldn't think that, okay, let me just drop an email to Venerable Rubina Curtin and see if she'll reply, right? So I just do it. I just take my chance, and then, there you have it. There is somebody out there who is is helping you out, right? So I've been lucky that way to be able to reach out to even some, like you said, even some of the big teachers. Just reach out to them, and they are really the best starting points, and that has really worked for me, definitely. So there's another question that I'll pose to when Bhikkhuni Vandana. How can the lay and the monastic sangha work together and help each other better?
Like if when it comes to sangha, like all sangha depends only on lay person. Like if lay person offers us food or living needs, until that we can't survive, right? So we, like you can say our life is depends on lay persons, and their life depends on us on about Dhamma only, right? So if we learn more, if we will practice more, so we can teach them more, we can make them perfect. Because even Buddha said, if there is no sangha, you can't get the Dhamma, right? So when it comes to lay person, first of all, they need to understand, because of the sangha, our Dhamma is still alive, right? Because if the sangha were not there, there's no one to teach us the Dhamma, and we don't know the correct way to follow the Dhamma and to practice the Dhamma, right? So when a sangha is there, like you have the teachers there to teach you in the Dhamma. Like in school, we when we go, we have maths teacher, we have English teacher, everyone, we have every subjects, every different teachers, not one person. But when it comes to Dhamma, only a monk can teach you, or a nun, uh, the Dhamma, right? So first of all, the upasakas needs to put the faith in the ordained person. If they don't put the faith, and they don't show the compassion to them, so what will happen with the ordained person? They will lose everything, right? So they don't have anyone to take care of them. If they will practice, and if lay person thinks that yes, if they will achieve something, or if they get enlightened, so if they will get enlightened and we will get something from them. Because you want to get perfect teacher. Why? You want a good teacher, you don't need anyone. You are not telling that, like Tripti said, that first of all you need to good teacher, right? You need to choose a good teacher. But how come you know that this person is a good teacher? Can you tell me that? How can you choose that? How can you say that yes, this person is a good teacher? So yeah.
I would just do research, Bhikkuni, on what they have published, what is available in the public domain, and see who's endorsing that. So it's actually looking at the value chain going surrounding that. Not just
Like,
trusting yourself, because you can't trust, you will not know, as a lay person, you know very little,
yeah,
so
yeah.
you will try to see who is being endorsed by whom, and that's what I meant by lineage. You will look at, is there a lineage that is connecting them to the obviously known.
So okay, yeah, you are saying like you see the what they have published, right? So can you tell me what Buddha published? Did Buddha published anything?
Because I have not gone that high up, Bhikkuni,
No.
I would look at what His Highness
No,
has published.
I just want to explain, because everyone who have that path to teach, some people don't waste their time to write, because Buddha never did. Buddha only taught, right? So we can't judge people by what they have, the work they have done. But when we see someone, right, in front of us, so what we observe first in that person, we observe his personality, right, her behavior, how he's talking, how he's sitting. So by that we only judge person, right? We don't see what that person is doing, what his job, how much salary he is on, right? It doesn't matter. First of all, we observe the behavior of that person. So from that we will decide to talk that with to talk that person or not, right? So that same thing we have to do with sangha. When we see the people who are following the vinayas, you will see that person is a very calm. You can see the peace in their face, and we will observe, you will observe some kind of good vibes surrounding that person. So by saying only that person, you will feel happy inside. So when you need to make a good bonding and you want to make a good sangha, like lay person or ordained person, so you need to first understand the importance of the sangha, because we are not supporting to sangha because we don't know the importance of the sangha. That's why we are not supporting the sangha, right? So if you are supporting to sangha, sangha will support you, because we are on depend on everyone, because there's a 4 pillars, right? So if one pillar will be broke, so I think the dhamma will be fall. So we need to observe everyone's action, and if we see that something there is a lacking, so we need to take that feel that pace. But we are not doing that. Like you are saying, it's not true that some person is publishing book, that means that he have knowledge. It doesn't matter. There is lots of people though, who doesn't even know how to write, how to read, but by hearing, by seeing, they learn so much dhamma, and they have so much wisdom in themselves, right? And they have achieved so many things. So I just want to tell that if layperson and sangha need to grow together, so first the upasakas need to understand the importance of the sangha, and the importance, the how the effects, the sangha, how the effects then effects on their lives, the layperson's life. So until that, we can't support the sangha. You can see that one monk, when he comes to our house, so we can observe, so the vibes in our house, right? So someone come to in touch with us, so that person's vibrations will work in us. Like someone said come near to us, so we will feel sad inside us, but we can't tell. Some person is happy and he's coming to us, so we will be feel happy from inside. We don't know why, but we will smile. Why? Because their vibrations is working, because their vibes all affecting us. So when that same thing happens when we come to monastery, or when we come to sangha, so we need to observe that thing, that how the sangha are reflecting in our lives, right?
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Bhikkuni. There's one more question, and this will again come to you, given that Venerable Dasel is not here. And it's
Okay.
about, is there an appropriate code of conduct in Buddhism on how lay people should interact with the monastic Sangha family?
So like all the sangha have boundary, right? Vinayas, right? Like monastic people have vinayas, lay person have vinayas. So like if you are a student, so you can teach your teacher, right? You only can learn from them, but you can't teach your teacher. So what happened that some lay people try to teach the monks or some nuns, and that's not correct way. So when you interact with your sangha, so be polite with them and show some wisdom in you, and show that compassion that you want to learn from them. right? So when they see that compassion into you, that you want to learn something from them, that time only they will ready to teach you. But when you will so the arrogance, and you will say that yes, we already know everything, so that time they will won't teach you. Because what will happen if they will teach you, you won't learn, and you won't be recognize all the things what they are telling you. Why? Because your ego is coming in front of you. Because when we are saying that I'm something, so until we want leave our ego in front of the ordained person, that until that we can't learn. So we need to learn our boundaries. We need to know that what boundary we have, what boundaries we lay persons have, and what respect the ordained person have. So until that we can't interact with them perfectly. So
Yeah. So, Venerable Desel, do you have any other thoughts on that? On what is the code of conduct from Tibetan Buddhism
yeah,
perspective? Is there any specific code of conduct on how lay people should interact with the monastic sangha? Venerable Desel? No, no. I think her internet is not working yet.
I think when you can see the interaction between upas layperson in a monastic in Sri Lanka and Thailand, I think you have seen. So there are the thing there you can see the limits of the upasakas and the monks, right? So we are student, like my point of view, the layperson are students and we are the teachers, and the Buddha is a principal them himself, right? So
Mm-hmm.
without him we couldn't get the Dhamma, right? And the monastery is your school. So when you come to the monastery, when you go to school, you know your rules, that what rules and regulations you need to follow. So when we go to monasteries, so we need to know that what kind of rules we have, and when we go to in front of our teachers, so how we react and how we behave in front of them. So I think when you go to monastery, just keep in your mind that we are going to school to learn something, not for like a job or something. We are going to get education for our life, right? So that kind of mentality when we have, so we can get something. So that time we will become the polite. But when we just think that we have lots of time and just we are go and roam there, so you can't get anything from that. So just be keep in mind that you are a student, and what's our robe? So the white clothes, it's your uniform, your school's uniform. So when we go to monastery, we have to wear that uniform, right? So I that's a thing we need to keep in our mind.
Sure. Thank you so much, Bhikkhuni.
Yeah.
Would you have any closing thoughts, Tripti ji, while we wrap up today's session?
I think as much as your own efforts, what you are doing counts in your Dharma journey, being surrounded by the right people, um, being able to look up to the right teachers and have them in your life, is so very important. So the Sangha's importance in our lives just is just cannot be described in any other way as being the most important, one of the three key jewels that you have. And we should choose wisely. We should choose, there are all kinds of sanghas available, and you have to choose wisely which takes you on your journey, and not counted by the ease of being able to choose it, but what is appropriate for your journey.
Thank you so much for those kind words, Tripti ji. Bhikkhuni, any other comments before we wrap up?
No, I think we should try to learn Dhamma more, and we try when we learn Dhamma, we should think that I need to achieve something in the Dhamma. Just not learning the Dhamma, I need to achieve something, like just need to decide something in our mind that I want to achieve this from the Dhamma, and by that, then if we learn Dhamma, but definitely we will achieve something from the Dhamma. But if we are doing every day and we don't have any goal to achieve from Dhamma, so I think it won't affect on your life. Right.
Thank
This
you so
is all.
much. Yeah, so thank you so much. I know we could have had another point of view we were missing today from Venerable Desel, but such is such is the impermanence of things. The internet doesn't work always. So with that,
Yeah.
we'll call it a day for today, and we'll continue the series in future. Thank you so much, Bhikkuni Vandana, for being here despite your
Thank you.
internet challenges. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
Tripti ji for her ever so articulate thoughts, and Samiksha, Brother Ray, and Sherab Wang for putting this session together. Thank you all.
Yeah, I think today everyone has a bad connection. Even I couldn't hear the talk properly.
So I think today, although we have a bad connection internet, but I think we have good connection among ourselves, especially among the female sangha here. Yeah. So thank you, Smita ji, for moderating this meaningful and inspiring dialogue, and thank you also Bhikkuni Vedana, not to forget also Venerable Tenzin Dasel, and of course Tripti ji for very inspiring and meaningful dialogue about the female sangha, your friendships and your interactions and dynamics behind the female sanghas. Yeah. So now, Samisha, would you like to tell us what is happening in future in Sattva project?
Yes. So on the 7th of August, we'll be having a guided meditation entitled Metta and Mindfulness, which will be guided by Pratija leader. And I guess that's it. So,
Yeah.
yes, so before we end up with the four great vows, I would like to invite every one of you to please recite a small dedication prayer from your respective traditions. So, I think let's start with Bhikkhuni Vandana.
Sabedhiyo vivajantu sabrogo vinasatu mate bhavantvantarayo sukhi dirghayuko bhava abhivadana silecha नीचं वटापचायनो चत्वारो धम्मा वदन्ति आयुर्वन्नो सुखं वदन्ति साधु साधु साधु. Thank you.
Sister Tripti.
May all the merits of the discussions we have had and of this coming together of this group, may all the merit of this be offered for the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who has given such beautiful teachings in the last 3 days in Ladakh, and all our teachers who so selflessly give of themselves without taking any thought of themselves, of their tiredness, of the many, many times they have to repeat, or of how much to our level of understanding individually they come. May they all have long lives so that the Dharma propagates and we all have the benefit of their teachings.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sister Smita. Oh,
Smita,
you're
you're
muted,
muted.
sister.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, may all the merit thus gathered with this conversation today help liberate all beings out of samsara, and may I help them on this journey. Thank you.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
So, Brother Sharaf, would you like to recite the 4 great vows?
Okay. The 4 great vows. Sentient beings are numberless, we vow to save them all. Delusions are endless, we vow to cut through them all. The teachings are infinite, we vow to learn them all. The Buddha way is inconceivable, we vow to attain it. May all beings be well, happy, and safe.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
So good night and thank you to everyone.
Good
Thank
night,
you,
good night.
everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Till we meet again.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
very soon.